Well, Peter Krause from Parenthood. The season finale of Parenthood, Adam goes through a whole lot. He loses his job. He finds out his wife's having a baby. What's going on in Adam's world right now?
Well, it was a tough year for Adam, with Gordon, first of all, dating his sister, his first boss, and then Gordon leaving the company. And then we had Corey come in, which was very difficult for Adam because he felt like the old guy and like he was being pushed aside. And meanwhile, he's been dealing with Hattie and, of course, with Max. And then at the end of the season, he loses his job. He thinks his daughter is pregnant, and then it turns out that it's his wife. So he's unemployed and has a baby on the way.
Yeah, that's exhausting, Peter. It really is. But it's obviously been quite enjoyable for an actor to play all that stuff, as well as all the interplay that you get to do with your cast members, which almost looks like it's not even scripted, which I know is not the fact. But what's it like learning all of those lines where you're almost talking over each other?
Well, some of it's scripted, and right now I was playing tennis with my kid earlier, so I'm like Albert Brooks from Broadcast News here. Excuse me for a second. Pretty hot up here, too. It is scripted, and we pay a lot of attention to what Jason writes, obviously, but he allows us the freedom to improvise, and so that's part of the reason why we talk over each other so much. And it's also another reason why it feels like family, is because we actually don't know what the other character is going to say next, particularly with Dax Shepard and Craig T. Nelson.
Well, talk about working with this particular ensemble. I mean, you've got it's almost like an all-star team that you joined here, and you're one of the leads on the show, obviously. What do you enjoy most about working with this particular group of people?
They're a really generous group of actors, starting with Craig T. Nelson and Bonnie Bedelia. And then my siblings, of course, Lauren Graham, Erica Christensen, Dax Shepard, and the young cast is really tremendous as well. I've had great luck in the TV series World with great casts, starting with Sports Night, 6 Feet Under, Dirty Sexy Money, and now this. But because this is a family and it's about family, it feels really good. There's not that sort of arbitrary, bleak worldview that kind of was in the fabric of 6 Feet Under. I think that Parenthood is a very hopeful show. And I've learned a lot from Craig T. I think he's fantastic. Nobody can connect emotionally quite like Craig T. can. I don't know if you saw the scene where Zeke takes Amber to the junkyard to show her the car, but amazingly powerful scene. And I just think he's a tremendous actor. So he's definitely a hero of mine.
Well, we were talking with Monica Potter.
I honestly am like Albert Brooks.
It just must be so hot out there. I'm really sorry about that.
It is hot, but I was running around.
That's all right. We were talking with Monica Potter a couple of weeks ago, your TV wife, and she mentioned that the storyline with Max, your TV son, is having quite an impact with people, on the street and with parents with children with Asperger's. Have you had much? Have you seen much impact with people day to day about that particular storyline?
Well, I'm surprised, or have been surprised, to find out how many families have autistic kids. I have parents stop me who are fans of the show and tell me that either they have an autistic child, or their sister does, or their neighbor. And the numbers that Autism Speaks gave us were that it's 1 in every 110 children now is placed on the autism spectrum. So it's a more prevalent condition than I thought it was. And talking to families about how difficult it is at home, coping. I mean, it's tough enough with the regular kid, but they definitely say that we portray it accurately, and they're very pleased to see that on TV.
And also, as a parent, dealing with a teenage daughter as well, that must resonate with a lot of people, and probably, even with my cast members personally. I know it did for me, not that I have a teenage daughter, but I can just imagine it would be very difficult. And Hattie's rebellion over the latter part of the season must have been a really fun thing to kind of explore and work out with all the cast, right?
I have some friends who have teenage daughters, and they were okay watching the series until towards the end of the year when Hattie starts having sex. And then I got some phone calls from pals of mine who wish that I would have called them in advance because they watch it with their kids, and it's great because it's fodder for conversation in the home. And I think that, I haven't seen a TV series quite like it. We deal with these issues in a really frank and honest way. Parents make mistakes, and hopefully people at home stop and think about the episode and question their choices as parents. The show has made me question some of my choices as a parent. So, I like to think that being on the show Parenthood has made me a better parent. But that particular storyline and how that wound up was tough for some friends of mine who have kids who are around 15, 16, 17 years old.
It became more of a reality series to them than a drama.
Yeah, exactly.
You well know, being a past Emmy nominee, if you get nominated this summer in that lead category, you're going to have to choose one episode from this past season that you feel like was the best for you as an actor and as for Adam. Do you have one in mind?
I don't, honestly. There are several episodes I liked a lot. There was an episode that Allison Liddy Brown directed where Adam and Zeke and Max are traveling through the supermarket, and they get in line with a guy who's kind of tense, and he eventually gets to the point where he calls Max a retard. Adam's been having a rough time, and he just can't stop himself, and he punches the guy. And the fallout from that in that episode, and the scene that Craig T. Nelson and I have, that Zeke and Adam have in Crosby's boat, because Crosby's moving off the boat, was a particularly touching and powerful scene, I thought, between a father and son. And then, of course, I thought the final episode of the season was great for everybody. And I certainly liked getting to go on that journey of getting fired, having to face my family, having my first words with Alex after I found out that he's having sex with my daughter. And I love the fact that all Jason Katims wrote was, wear a condom. That was
very good.
That was all I wrote. And then, of course, at the end of the series, when I have to go home, or Adam goes home and has to tell Christina, I have to focus on that because I call Monica Christina and Christina Monica a lot. But, and tell her that I've been fired, and then go and look for the retainer in the trash and find the pregnancy test. And I particularly enjoyed getting to play that. It was tough, but finding the pregnancy test, thinking that it was my daughter, and coming into the house with that head of steam, and then having Christina tell me, no, it's me. And of course the disbelief of like, what, we're pregnant, I don't have a job, all of these things, but yet everything is fine. And I love that, I don't know, it's like the masks of the theater. It's both tragic and comic at the same time, and it's discordant but harmonious. And I think that Jason Katims has a way of creating these situations which, are very much like life.
That episode called Do Not Sleep with Your Autistic Nephew's Therapist is also really good because you get to just completely fly off the handle at Crosby for obviously doing the wrong thing with the therapist. And that was also a really, really strong scene for you and for other members of the cast too. So plenty to choose from. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love the title of that episode, by the way.
Yeah, it's good.
They don't get much longer than that. That's for sure.
Never
and it's
sleep
on
with your autistic nephew's behavioral aid.
That's right.
Something.
That's good.
And it's on the Emmy ballot for writing this year, so we'll see if it can get nominated in that category. Well, back to the Emmys from a few years ago, you got 3 Emmy nominations for 6 Feet Under. Talk about that experience, maybe even especially that first year, the first year of the show. The show's nominated, a whole bunch of cast members are nominated.
Yeah.
It's your first nomination. What was the experience like for you?
It was very exciting, and there was no television series like it before. It was truly an original, one-time only experience. I thought that, I have to go all the way back. I was doing Sports Night, and I just found out it got canceled in June, in late May or June, and they were trying to have Sports Night move to HBO or FX or something like that, and it didn't happen. And I got the script for 6 Feet Under in July. And I read it, and I couldn't believe that they were willing to make it. But I'd worked with Alan Ball and Sybil, and he was a nice guy, funny guy. And, American Beauty had come out. So that was the only thing that I was familiar with in terms of his work. besides working with him on Sybil and reading a couple of his plays that he'd written when he was younger back in New York. So I felt tremendously lucky to get to go from Sports Night to 6 Feet Under. Those guys were both tremendous writers. Michael Hall had gone to NYU 6 years after I did, so we speak the same language. It was great to work with him. Gosh, Francis Conroy was so fantastic. I mean, it was just a great cast. Freddie Rodriguez, Lauren Ambrose, Rachel Griffiths. That was great. I had to read with a bunch of actresses for Rachel once they cast me for Brenda. And Rachel and I just hit it off, and she was just great to work with those 5 years. But I was tremendously proud, of the work we did those years, and I was really happy that we got recognized for it. And I thought that was just a one-of-a-kind, groundbreaking show. And I've been very fortunate. I've gotten to do a lot of really great shows on the creative side. Even Dirty Sexy Money, even though we had a lot of creative battles with ABC over what it was supposed to be, it was also a really great experience.
Well, we couldn't let you leave without also just quickly mentioning Sports Night. Such a seminal moment in history of TV comedy. It really was, and has such a great cult following even to this day. And we spoke to Josh Charles a couple of weeks ago, and even he had really fond memories of working on that show. Have you got any any specific stories that you might remember off the top of your head about working on that?
Well, speaking of Josh, he's the only actor that's been able to bust me up on a routine basis. They would film our material behind the sports anchor desk last. So they'd be in the control room, and we'd have to be out there for hours because you'd see our images live on the monitors inside the control room where Felicity Huffman, Sabrina Lloyd, Josh Molina, and Isaac Jaffe, Robert Guillaume was. Character names, actor names, it's always tough. And we'd be out there at 1, 2 in the morning. And, by that time, I don't know, Josh and I got pretty silly together on that show and had a lot of laughs. There were poker games up in the control booth that were going on for years. People spitballing each other from the catwalks. There's a treasure trove of stories from that show, but what a great series. That was a series that I thought could have gone like 7, 8, 9 years. And, unfortunately it didn't, but Aaron Sorkin, great writer and fantastic cast. Had a blast.
That was tons of dialogue to remember, and you have to walk and talk at the same time.
Yeah, I love that, though. I mean, it was really, really fun to work on that. And that's an interesting thing about working in TV. Depending upon who the writer is, there are these different creative disciplines you have to, nurture in yourself. And with Aaron Sorkin, it's getting the sense of that dialogue right and being able to toss it back and forth with the other actors really quickly. With Alan Ball, it's certainly plugging in emotionally all the time to everything you're doing. And, again, with Jason Katims, it's really interesting. We're encouraged to take up more creative space, certainly than I have been in the past. And I think that this show's all the better for it. I mean, he does some amazing things, and, both in his writing, but also in the way he runs a show. And the fact that we get to be that creatively invested in the show, I think benefits Parenthood greatly.
Well, the show is it's supported by the network. It's acclaimed by the critics. It's well respected. The Emmys ignored it last season, the first season, which was a short one. And maybe it might break through in the drama series category and for some of the cast members. Is there any hope that that might happen? And and what would it mean to you to be recognised again for another show?
Well, I'd love to get recognized for this show because I'm playing a character whose chief aim in life is to be the best father he can be and the best husband he can be. And I think that that's really admirable. He's not an out there character. He's not a wild, crazy cop or anything like that. He's just a guy who's trying to be a great dad and a great husband and also a great brother and a great son. So I think that's really important, and hopefully, Emmy voters will think that's important too. But being a good father, I think, most important job a man can have. So
totally,
it'd mean a lot to me. But also, just in terms of the structure of my career, the 6 Feet Under experience was a pretty rated R show. About a guy who had a lot of existential issues. And, Nate Fisher's chief aim was to lead an authentic life, no matter what happened around him. And getting to play that character was fantastic. And for me, this is very different, but yet in terms of where I was at in my life at that time and where I'm at now, it's very fitting.
Well, listen, we really appreciate your time today, and we're wishing you and the producers and the cast and all great success for the third season, as well as with the Emmys this summer.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, Rob.
No worries.